Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Hazeman, and today we are talking about one of my all-time favorite topics, which is unmedicated births. And honestly, like remembering back to the birth with my first child, I remember the nurses literally referred to me as the one who did it naturally. Like, that's the patient who did it naturally. That's the patient that did it unmedicated. Like, it was so shocking for these nurses that I literally was like this like one in a million, it felt like, and it was weird. I was like, yes, I'm proud of myself. I was like, that was my intention. It was kind of nice to be like noticed for it. But at the same time, I was like, what? That many people do it with some type of intervention that when someone does it completely naturally, it's pretty shocking. And to top it off, I had my first child in a midwifery unit. Like, I went above and beyond of like trying to find a practice that promotes having unmedicated births, that really like, you know, educates their clients and or their patients and really like pushes for an unmedicated birth, I guess. Like, that's what I was out searching for. So the fact that like that's the practice that I was in. I wasn't in a regular like OBGYN practice or a regular like hospital. I was in a midwifery unit, and people were still shocked to hear that I did it naturally. So I don't know, I guess like that's been a huge question over the years, like since the birth of my first and then having a home birth with my second. People are like, how the heck did you do it without getting an epidural or any type of intervention? And there's just so much that goes into it. So we're gonna dive into all of that today. I mean, first and foremost, for me, I think back, like women have been having babies forever, right? Like, we didn't start having epidurals. I think they became common in like the 70s or 80s. So like they're fairly new. And now it's just like everybody's like, how the heck do you do it without it? Well, like my mom did it without us. Like her mom did it without the epidural. Like epidurals are relatively new. So for the fact that like we're all like shocked that we're not using it is just marketing, right? Like that's hospitals saying like, this is the way to do it. Why do it the other way? Like, it's not because women are incapable of doing it without epidurals. Like, granted, like, we're totally capable. There are a ton of reasons to go about having an unmedicated birth. Some people have to do it for actual medical reasons. Some maybe want to just have a little bit more control, more mobility, because you're not numb in any way. You can get up and move, which just helps that birth experience. Some people don't want the side effects from an epidural. Some just want less intervention, which was me. I really, really, really wanted to do it as naturally as possible without the intervention, without medication, without Pitocin, without, you know, getting induced, without any type of intervention was my goal. So that just meant no medication for me. I that was my preference and my birth plan. But I, like I said, I went unmedicated in a hospital in a midwifery unit with my first, and I went unmedicated at home with my second, and did a home birth. And both times I would not have done it any other way. It is miraculous what our bodies are capable of in terms of like, yes, you can make it through without medication, but also you'll be shocked if you make it through. It is so cool to see what our bodies can do to form its own type of pain management. Because like I said, our bodies were created to do this. Like, our bodies know exactly how to cope with the pain and how to get through it. And thinking back to my first, we actually have a video of it, but like, I mean, with both of them, but especially my first, it looked like I was drunk when I was in labor, because I was like slurring my words. I was just in the zone, it wasn't because I was in so much pain, it was because I was in so much relief. Like, my body created these natural painkillers where I literally looked like I was on some type of drugs, but it was completely natural, and it wasn't the level of pain that you would imagine with having a birth. Like, I guess like it's just so crazy to me that our bodies can do that, but we're going to dive into all of that good stuff. But I wanted to talk first about, okay, if you're thinking or considering having an unmedicated birth, like, how do you go about it? I feel like it's very like taboo in today's world, at least in the United States. I should preface that, because a lot of other countries are like, what the heck? What do you mean? Unmedicated birth is just like what people do. Like, we don't do interventions, but here in the US, we do lots of interventions. So One of the most important things I think about having an unmedicated birth is educating yourself and your spouse and your doula or whoever is going to be involved in your birth, but especially yourself. Because like I said, right now it's easy to do an epidural, it's easy to get induced, it's easy to do a lot of different interventions because that's just kind of what's the norm in the hospitals today. Not saying it's right or wrong, but it is typically like what happens. Like one intervention leads to another intervention, leads to another intervention. So having enough education or being aware of like what's going on and being able to advocate for yourself is important. I have a lot of different resources, but my favorite resources for educating yourself are a DVD called Laugh and Learn About Childbirth. It is like made in like the 80s, I think, and it is so funny. I literally laughed the whole time. I thought it was such a like fun way to learn. Like I'm saying like dry humor. It's not like you're gonna be like hearing a stand-up comedian by any means, but I just thought it was like entertaining enough to get through it because it's a long DVD. But both my husband sat down with our doula with our first child and we went through it and we learned what exactly is happening in your body during your pregnancy, what exactly is happening when labor starts, what about false labor. You're learning about exactly what's going on in your body, which having that knowledge and understanding exactly what's happening in your body is step number one to being able to go through the process and feel in control, because being in control is very important throughout the entire process. So I definitely recommend that DVD. I watched it and I felt like it did a really, really, really good job for helping both my husband and I understand, okay, like this is exactly what's going to happen, learning about the different stages of labor and so on. So whether you're there's also like classes, you can do an in-hospital class, you can do other different types of education, even there's free education on Instagram, and I'm sure there's YouTube videos, I'm sure there's everything. There's so much free education out there about what's happening in your body during labor. But I found that was really, really important. It's just learning exactly what's going to be happening as you welcome your new little one to the world. Another resource that I really recommend is called the Hypnobirthing book by Catherine Graves. I listened to this on Audible. It is actually a very short book, and I don't even think that I finished the full thing. So I just kind of listened to the concept behind hypnobirthing. And basically it talks about how to use your breath as pain management, which is so important, guys. Seriously, so important, is like being able to breathe through your contractions and to open up your body. So that was definitely something that I recommend. I know that like throughout the book, it'll have you practice like basically like you're sticking to like this workout program throughout your thing. I didn't even do that, guys. I just took the general concept from this book and applied it to what was going to be happening during labor, and it was game changer. A couple of other things that I did to actually prepare, in addition to educating myself through the DVD, educating myself through the book, was also educating myself through working with a pelvic floor therapist. Now, this isn't accessible for everyone, especially because here in the US, pelvic floor therapy is like so taboo as well, but I found it super important. So I met with a pelvic floor therapist that actually came to my house when I was pregnant, and we did an examination, and she basically, what was really cool about it was she had me do like pushing way before I was ready to be in labor. So like I think I was like only halfway through my pregnancy, but had me do all this pushing, and she was kind of watching and seeing what was going on. And we found out, before I even went to the hospital to deliver my baby, I found out my best pushing positions, where my body is the strongest and can contract the best. And she also like helped me walk through the breathing and how to actually breathe and like connect that mind and body and be able to breathe that deep core breath that will really help open up my pelvic floor to let the baby out. So working with a pelvic floor therapist was really cool, and I absolutely recommend it. Now, the next thing that I did wasn't really intentional, but something that really helped prepare me for birth was doing hard things. And it sounds silly, but like I did hard metcons. I did different hard workouts. I was able to deadlift. I was able to bench. I was able to squat. I did cold baths. I did all of these things that were very hard to do, and I had to get through them. Thinking even something as simple as like I did a minute of burpees and I just busted ass for an entire minute to get through those burpees. And having that ability to like do something that's really hard and to push my body in ways, like in those different ways, in timed increments too, really did transfer over to, okay, like a contraction is starting, I've got a minute, I'm gonna breathe through it, I can do anything for 60 seconds, I can do anything for 60 seconds. Like, it really did transfer, doing those hard things prior to getting pregnant, during my pregnancy, to then being in labor. Those were really helpful. That like testing my body's limits was really helpful. I did mention the ice baths. That is like something, I swear, like if you're considering getting pregnant and you've never done an ice bath, I wouldn't recommend it for your first time while pregnant, although like I did ice baths prior to getting pregnant and then during my pregnancy. But I wouldn't, just hop on and start it. But there are like the ice cube challenges that you can do, and holding an ice cube in your hand and breathing through the discomfort, because it does, weirdly enough, get crazy discomforting holding an ice cube in your hand. That's the same concept with an ice bath. Like, you're submerging yourself, you're having to breathe, you're having to relax your body through like something that's really uncomfortable. And it transfers so well to being able to do that. And like, when your body is contracting and like you're trying to fight it, like not your natural instinct, but your instinct is to like, tense up, being able to breathe through that contraction is like, it's so close to doing an ice bath. That's crazy. Like, obviously it's way more intense than like the cold water, but this process is so similar in my mind, at least. Okay, so now you've done like all of this education. That's my first tip, is like I said, to educate yourself as much as possible and prepare for that through educating yourself and, that type of thing. The next really important step, if you're trying to have an unmedicated birth, is choosing a provider that aligns with your values. Now, I feel like so often, especially like, we have insurance and we have to go through insurance and whatever insurance covers, and it's like a pain in the butt. I get it. For me, my second time around having a home birth, I didn't go to the midwife until I was 16 weeks because it took so freaking long to figure out what insurance was going to cover and how they were going to cover it, and it was a pain in the butt. But I do really think it's worth it, because finding a provider, whether it is an OBGYN in a regular hospital, if it's a midwife, if it is a birthing center where you go to a center to have a more natural birth, or it is a home birth, like no matter what you choose, if you're choosing an OBGYN, a midwife, a doula, all of those people, truly, you really need them to align with your values and your goals. If you're gonna go, if you really want to have an unmedicated birth and you go to an OBGYN that has a huge high C-section rate, like your values might not align, like if if his patients, it's like a 99% epidural rate, like your values probably don't align. But maybe you see an OBGYN who has a much lower epidural rate, a much lower C-section rate, and like typically tries to stay away from any intervention whenever possible. Or maybe you see a midwifery unit, or go to a midwifery unit and see a midwife who, promotes that type of thing. Or maybe you consider having a midwife at home who obviously supports the unmedicated birth lifestyle. But like, just making sure that you choose a provider, having that interview, having that that conversation with them to be able to make sure that you have those same values and that your values align, because that's going to be step number one into getting that birth that you want. I mean, I want to say like 60 to 70% of women get epidurals. So like, most doctors aren't even considering that that's something you don't want. Like, they're just assuming it is what you want, because that's kind of the norm right now. I want to say like the C-section rate in the United States is like 30%, which is mind-bogglingly high compared to like, I mean, C-sections are relatively like this new thing too, and now all of a sudden everybody needs a C-section. It's just crazy to me. All right, so now you have educated yourself, or know how to educate yourself. You know that choosing a provider is incredibly important. Now, creating a birth plan is also very important. Obviously, I think that there's so much that goes into a birth plan. I actually have a customizable template that you can check out in the description below, where you can literally figure out exactly what you want. I give the different options, like things that you might want to consider to add to your birth plan, things that maybe you don't care about, you can ditch and get rid of it out of your birth plan. But I think the entire birth plan is very important. But if an unmedicated birth is something that you want to do, you want to make sure that that is outlined so many times in your birth plan. Things like, please do not offer any type of medication during the labor process, because nurses and doctors might be very inclined to say like, hey, you want to try an epidural? And if that's something that you don't want to try, having it stated there specifically, please do not offer medication, because when you're going through it, the sound of an epidural might sound enticing when things are getting a little hard. But if that's not the support that you want, make sure you tell them exactly what kind of support you do want. Like, hey, instead of offering me pain medication, please offer pain management techniques. So when things are getting tough, maybe they offer some water therapy, or maybe they offer some movement and like allow you to walk around the room, or maybe they give you counter pressure. So many different techniques that they can offer instead of an epidural or any type of pain management if that's not what you want. So in your birth plan, having that specified, as well as in your birth plan having other things specified that can help lead to a better labor, which is going to help you not need pain medication, if you know what I mean. Like things like having a calm environment, not having a ton of people running in and out of your room, which makes it stressful and makes you kind of feel unsafe. Like all of it works together. And I feel like I'm trying to like kind of rush through this point of a birth plan, because I could talk about a birth plan forever. I think it's super cool to be able to like write down your intentions and visualize the birth that you want, because I think that's very important. But that being said, my birth plan template walks through every little thing that you might want to consider to set up the birth space, to set up the experience the way that you want, because having a plan, sharing that plan with your doula, your provider, your partner, and going through it yourself is like a really important step to having the birth that you want. Now we're gonna get to the good stuff. What do we do during birth? Because that's the big event, right? Like, what are things that can help me get through birth, get through labor without medication? And I think first and foremost is trusting yourself, not being scared of birth, preparing yourself, like I said, with educating yourself, watching positive birth stories. I got 2 really positive birth stories that you can check out if you want to see those. But having, this very positive plan, having a very positive outlook on birth, being excited about it. Oh my gosh, like I was so excited the first time I went into labor. I was so excited the second time I went into labor too, because I knew how amazing of an experience it is. Having that positivity and really trusting yourself, being like, I am doing it. Like, it's me. I get to do everything today. This is about me. This is about me and my baby. And really just trusting your instincts is my top recommendation. Number 2 is your environment. Whether you choose to have a hospital birth, if you have it in a birthing center, if you have it at home, if you have it in a car, wherever you're going to have your baby, having it trying to have it be a calm, safe space. So for me, the reason I had a home birth my second time around is because I didn't really feel safe in the hospital. I didn't like having all of the nurses and doctors. I didn't like being in a hospital room. I didn't like being in hospital. Oh my God, after having my first baby, being in the hospital afterwards was like causing me so much stress, which is why I chose to have a home birth in a place where I felt very, very comfortable. Obviously, it's my house. I felt safe, but some people might look at home birth and be like, holy moly, that would be so anxiety inducing for me. Like, I couldn't even imagine not being in a hospital. So finding your safe place, but making it as calm as you can, asking for the lights to be dimmed, having some soft music, maybe having some awesome, loud, raging music, if that's what you like, whatever the case may be, setting up the environment in a way that's going to help you feel the most comfortable and calm is going to help the entire process as well. For my home birth, I was in the bathroom with the Christmas lights up. It was dim lighting. I didn't have any music. I had it completely silent because that was my preference. And I, like I said, was in my bedroom. Like, I was in my home where I felt the most comfortable. Number 3 is to stay nourished and hydrated. So eat the snacks, eat a good quality meal if you can, leading up to giving birth. Make sure you're staying hydrated. That could be your partner's job or your doula's job, or have someone there who can be like, hey, time to drink some water, stay hydrated, because your body is going through a marathon. Whether you have a 3-hour labor or a 30-hour labor, your body is going to need the energy and the nourishment to be able to do what it's supposed to do. Number 4 is affirmations. Now, it's incredible, truly is incredible what your mind is capable of. And if you, like I said, are terrified of giving birth and you keep telling yourself, oh my God, this hurts so bad and I need this to end and I hate this and I can't do this, your body is going to react appropriately, or is going to react correspondingly to that. And I know, like, in the midst of it, it does hurt. It does, like, they are very intense contractions. But if you tell yourself, I was made for this, I can do this, I can do anything for 60 seconds, I am strong, I am brave, and this is what's going to get me closer to seeing my baby, I can't wait to hold my baby. All of these affirmations, whether you're saying them to yourself, whether you have cards written out that you're reading, maybe your partner's saying it, maybe your doula is saying these affirmations to you, figure out what truly resonates to you and the reminders that you want to hear throughout the labor process, because it's mind-boggling. I remember my husband, he is the birth partner from heaven. He is absolutely incredible when it comes to birth. And I remember we were practicing for my first baby and he was like, okay, I'm going to try to do some visualization. And he was like asking me all these questions. It was before I was even in labor. We're laying in bed and he was like asking me questions. He's like, so imagine you're in a happy place. Where are you? And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, I don't want to answer questions. Like, I don't want to answer questions now, but especially when I'm in labor, like, I don't want to have to do thinking and work. Like, I need you to lead me. I need you to be there. And we kind of went back and forth and worked things out. And I told him he was annoying when he did this and I didn't like that. And when I was finally in labor, I remember he would like tell me, okay, you're halfway. We're halfway through the contraction. And I was like, ooh, I like that. And I told him that because I was like, I want you to keep doing that. I want you to keep reminding me, okay, you're more than halfway through. You can do anything for 60 seconds. And he just kept doing those. With my second labor, I had affirmations written out of things that I needed the reminders of. Like, I was made to do this. All of these affirmations I keep saying, he just kept reading them out loud and he just kept saying, relax, loosen your jaw, loosen your fingers, take deep breaths, open up. And all of these beautiful reminders was what truly, I can't do it. When I was in the moment, I couldn't even open my eyes. I couldn't even see the cards to read those affirmations. Like, I was, like I said, like a loopiness. I was, like equivalent to being totally drunk. I was in my zone, totally out of it, swaying side to side. He was my reminder. He was taking my affirmations, my reminders. He was reading them to me. He was reminding me of those things, because in the middle of being in labor, I definitely at points was like, oh, and wanted to clench up and tighten. And he'd be like, hey, breathe, open up, relax your fingers, relax your jaw. And I would, and that, it helps immensely. Again, my next point was like basically the same thing of like those affirmations, but also constant reminders to open up, visualization. Like, okay, you have waves coming in and waves going out. You are opening up like a flower. Open up your body and allow your body to open up so that the baby can come through. Like, those reminders of like, okay, the body is legitimately, when I contract and fight a contraction, I am closing things off. Baby is not making any progress when I'm tightened up and squeezing. When I open up and breathe, my body is opening up, it's dilating, things are moving out of the way so that the baby can go through. So having him remind me of like legitimately what is happening was really helpful to get through the whole process as well. Next tip is to stay active and move, especially like early labor. Move around your house, do things, whatever you can, stay in that, comfortable environment as much as possible. But even through everything, the big labor, like, when you're going through transition and you're giving birth, like moving around and doing what you can to stay comfortable is really, really beneficial and a good technique for going unmedicated or doing it unmedicated. For me, the easiest thing for me was to sway. And the reason is because when you're swaying, it's very hard to contract. And as soon as I would stop, I would tense up. So I would literally sway and dance, and I was leaning on my bathroom counter, both births. So my daughter's birth, when I was in hospital, I was standing up swaying. And then in my house, I was leaning against my bathroom counter and swaying. And that's what I did for most of both of my labors. Some people like to move around. Some people like to bounce on a workout ball. There's different ways to move, and finding something that is comfortable for you, obviously, something that feels really good is a beneficial way to do it, rather than laying in bed with your feet up in the air on your back, which is not comfy, guys. Something that I really, the first time around didn't do, but the second time I truly believe it made an incredible difference and made the pain way more manageable, was water therapy, or doing a water birth. So I remember, I want you to watch my whole birth story, because if you're thinking about doing an unmedicated birth, there is no better thing to do than to watch a positive birth story. And both of my birth stories are so positive because they were truly amazing days. Like, I look back at my birth and I'm like, wow, that was incredible. Can I do that again? Like, I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It's like when you do, a marathon or something, like, it was hard as shit, right? But you make it through and you're like, that was my body did that. That was amazing. Like, it's awesome. It is so cool. So first and foremost, definitely watch that. But I'm going to summarize a little bit of my home birth. Was I labored in my bathroom almost the entire time. At one point I was like, I feel like I want to get on my hands and knees on my bathroom floor. Like, it's hard floor. And I was like, this is not comfortable, but I stayed there for a contraction. I stood up. I walked out into my living room not my living room, to my bedroom, where there was a tub filled with water. And I was like, oh, I'm afraid to get in it because I feel like if I get in it and I don't like it, I'm not going to want to get back in. And so I went back into the bathroom. I went through a couple more contractions, did my swaying and breathing. And then all of a sudden, I literally don't even remember thinking about it. I just walked into the tub, climbed in, started pushing. And as soon as I got into the tub, I was like, this is incredible. Like, it was instant relief. So much pressure was taken off of me because of the water. It was incredible. And I felt like the whole pushing experience was like way more gentle compared to the pushing experience on dry land with my daughter, which I was on my hands and knees pushing with her as well. Same position basically, but with the water just helped so much. It was so nice. In addition to water, there's so many other techniques that you can help immensely. Having cold packs on you, having washcloths on your neck, having hot packs or heating packs, having some type of massage to loosen things up, kissing, any type of emotional connection with your spouse. Like, you can get a lot of relief that way, that natural endorphins that you get from kissing. Counter pressure, that was a huge one for me. Almost my entire labor, my husband was pushing on my lower back to give me that counter pressure because I felt so much pressure in my back, and pushing against it was instant relief. So while there are, obviously an epidural, might take the pain away, there are so many other things that can also take the pain away that involves no medication whatsoever. Above all else, just trust your body. Oh gosh, I just felt like birth for me was just beautiful, and I went into labor thinking that birth was beautiful. I watched so many videos of positive births to be like, hey, this is a beautiful natural experience. I educated myself. I found a team of people who aligned with my values. I educated my husband. I did everything I could to prepare for it so that my birth could also be beautiful the way that I visualized it. I think your perspective is humongous, and whether it's the perspective that you're going into a birth thinking you can do it and you are perfectly capable of doing it and you absolutely were made to do this, or just reminding yourself in the middle of it to smile that you are so close to meeting your baby, to remind yourself during it that perspective makes a huge difference as well. So all of it is perspective, all of it is trusting your body, and obviously using whatever comfort techniques that you can throughout the process, but you can do it, you guys. It is so miraculous and amazing. And when you get to the other side, you are going to feel the exact same way as me. It is just a beautiful, amazing, awesome experience. And that is it. I am so happy for you if you're considering an unmedicated birth. I hope that this video was helpful to you and you learned some things to do to prepare for it. I share motherhood videos every single Friday, so make sure to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.